Hi guys, welcome to the video. Today we are going to delve a little bit deeper into colour and mixing colours and trying to create some really beautiful colours. So one of the things that I really enjoy are tertiary colours. So they're the mixes between, we have the primary colours, we have the secondary mixes from those primary colours, and then we have those kind of in-between colours, and that's what I'd like to talk about today. So colour has been around us all for our entire lives. So we all have kind of a very broad, I would say there's kind of two ways that we look at colour. One is a really rudimentary way. We understand, the basic concepts: blue, purple, pink, red, green. But also, and so, in our head, that those very sort of basic colour names and ways that we think of colour. But all around us every day we have a huge wealth of colour, an entire spectrum of colour. So these subtle variations in colour are constantly around us, and in ways I think we're not even often aware of. So I think it's important to delve a little bit deeper into our colour choices for our paintings as well. So here you can see that I'm just swatching the basic primary. So we have red, this is a Pyrrol Red, and then we have yellow. This is a lemon yellow because it's really the only yellow that I have on my palette. So normally this would be a little bit of a warmer yellow, but yeah, you can see here that even in just swatching the primary colours here, I'm adding water to my brush, so I am putting the full intensity of the colour down, and then I am just dipping my brush in water to desaturate the colour, to create a lighter value of that colour. And you can see that even within these basic primary colours you can get these beautiful tonal variations. So this one here is the Daniel Smith Cobalt Blue, and this is just a very similar colour to like an ultramarine blue. Ultramarine is a little bit more granulating. But you can see that just even starting from these colours and adding a little bit of finesse, a little bit of just consideration for the value here, we can get some beautiful changes and some just something different instead of just swatching those three colours. So I wanted to then mix some secondary colours. So those are the primary colours, and then from those colours we can mix the red and yellow together and we get orange. And so I don't want to go so I don't want to go into this too much, but I just want to kind of give a brief overview here so that you can kind of think and consider some of these things while you're painting. So you can see here that we've just added a little bit more of the yellow to get a lighter shade of the orange, and then again we are dipping the brush in the water to create a lighter value here. So and then we're using the blue and the yellow to create a green, and we can make several different shades of green from mixing either more blue or more yellow in those mixes. Okay, so we arrive at secondary colours from mixing equal parts of primary colours. So exactly the same amount of red and yellow, exactly the same amount of yellow and blue. But when we move the mix towards one of those colours a little bit more, we create tertiary shades. So colours in between. If it's closer to the yellow, then we get a little bit of more of a subtle variation, or closer to the blue, then we can create these kind of in-between shades, which is where you start to get some of the magic happening. So the problem is that with some primaries and some mixing colours, you can't necessarily mix everything you want. And this is where I started this channel, to kind of start highlighting some of these other colors that are available. Like you can see in the palettes there that not necessarily everything there I can mix. So I have some of these colors that are readily available, and I can instantly kind of have those accessible for paintings and have those just beautiful gradients of color, and have that spectrum of color, you know, more just more present, I guess, in the painting. So you can see there that you can make some like neutrals if you mix some of those secondary colors and some of the colors together. Now you can see that in the like the kind of emblem that I did for today's video, I've used these three colors. So I used the Wallace and Seymour Cinabrese, I used the Daniel Smith French Ochre, and then I also used the Daniel Smith Hematite. So I kind of was, so it's kind of a limited palette, but I mixed those three together and with water in different variations to create the painting. Now, interestingly, with the color, the primary colors that we have there, if we add white, we can mix some of these colors that I've just used here. So that's what we'll kind of look at now, but before that I also wanted to show you. So I got a new Cinabrese. They finally came back in stock in Select Fine Arts, and you can see the new one there on the left, and then the original one is on the right, and there's a few different swatches there, but that you can see that they're slightly different. I actually love both of them. I really hope they'll bring out both, but so we're just going to kind of try and create some of these mixes. So we're using the Pyrrol Red, and then I'm putting a little bit of the, this is the Blockx titanium white, so it's in that large ceramic pan, and you can see I got something else on the palette there, but I'm just going to use a little bit of this mix that was kind of in the half pan, and you can see that straight away we have something like this really beautiful powder pink color. And then I'm mixing, so I kind of just use these three primaries, and I just kind of mix a little bit more red or a little bit more blue to come up with something pretty much exactly like the Daniel Smith French Ochre. And then I tried for a little while, tried to create a black or a darker brown, which I really couldn't. I'm not sure if I was, I don't know, but I was finding it hard. But yeah, so especially when I was starting, I was trying to be pretty strategic in which colors that I bought, because I was just pretty much buying like maybe one Daniel Smith every week or two. And so I started with colors that I thought would give me the most amount of mixes. So you can see there when you add white, straight away you can get some of these really powdery pastel colors. I added the pearlescent white because again it gave me those pastel colors but in the sparkle. Yeah, and you can mix, you know, from a limited palette you can mix quite a few things. The thing about you know, advancing your palette though, the more, like when you are getting more colors, you know, like I put shell pink in there straight away because I don't want to be mixing a red and a white every time that I want that color. Like I use that color quite a lot. So those are just some things to consider. But one of my favorite ways to create tertiary colors is to mix two colors in my palette that are very close in color already, and then you end up with these really beautiful in-between shades. So at the top there I mixed Daniel Smith Rhodonite, which is kind of like a quin pink, with the Daniel Smith Mayan Red to get like a really beautiful raspberry color. And then here I'm mixing the Rhodonite with the organic Vermillion, and again you're getting this kind of deep coral color. So I just continue that like down through my palette, mixing the organic Vermillion with the Pyrrol Orange, the Pyrrol Orange with maybe the shell pink or yeah, and you can kind of see that I kind of continue to create these subtle kind of in between shades. So I also really like creating some of, like mixing some of these together. So this is the Shell Pink with the Daniel Smith French Ochre, and it makes this really sort of creamy, soft, caramelly colour. Okay, so aside from, you know, mixing two colours that are very similar to each other, another way to create really beautiful tertiary colours is to use a good neutral. So this is one of my new favourite neutrals. This is Davy's Grey by Winsor & Newton. So what we're doing here is we're mixing the Davy's Grey in with, so this is one of the watercolours that I made, but last week we kind of mixed something similar with a Phthalo Green and white, so quite a lot of white, to get to this really kind of powdery, beautiful consistency. So, and then I'm also mixing the Davy's Grey with a tiny bit of the Isaro Rose, and this creates this incredible warm grey. It's a really, really beautiful colour. So we're really kind of leaning into this tertiary palette and creating this really soft and kind of sophisticated palette. So I also pair this with the French Ochre, Daniel Smith French Ochre, and the Daniel Smith Van Dyke Brown to create the kind of gold trim. So this is a Doorway from Versailles, and yeah. So you can see that in thinking about the palette that you're going to use, there are a few considerations, and those colour choices is what will create the ambience for your painting and for the viewer. So yeah, like, could I have done this door in red, the Pyrrol Red? Absolutely, and that would be a very bright and very beautiful bold statement to make. You know, could you do it in a ultramarine blue? Absolutely, and then you would get like a really beautiful, strong kind of painting as well. So just being aware that you know, tertiary colours is not always better, but there are just differences that you can create in your painting. I think that's just important to kind of be aware of that. So so the next thing that we're going to do here, again, we're going to use some of these like sort of in between mixes, and we're going to just create some petals, some transparent petals around this plate. So we did the plate in one of the videos recently, and that is from my printables. So I just have a few that you can trace and that you can use to kind of create different elements in your sketchbook or in paintings. And you know, practice different things. So because I think often the sketches are kind of the hardest thing to come up with. So once you have that sketch in place, then it's kind of easier to just play around with colours, and you know, you can sketch the same thing out several times and try different colours. But at any rate, so what we're doing here is we're just, it's a very basic kind of exercise. So we're just creating these petals. We aren't, you know, being too specific about the shapes here. So I do have a longer video where I go into like making the petals curl and all kinds of different things. But for this video, we're just going to use these fairly large, so the kind of the strength of the painting, or the it's kind of the exuberant way that we've created these really large petals on the page, and so that's going to be very striking. So it doesn't have to necessarily be you know, a very complex shape. It might just be the fact that you've enlarged that shape. Yeah, so we're doing kind of petals, and you can see that I am not really overlapping them here. They're kind of all apart, and then we'll go back in once these are dry, and then we add some more petals that do overlap, and then you start to get this really beautiful transparent kind of like little forest of petals, and it's just so pretty. It's also a really nice way to, you can see, like work on colors, mix different colors, work on adding water to the mixes, adding different, so you'll see in a minute, like I'm just kind of got the one mix here, but I go back in with a little bit more of a yellow orange mix, and I add a little bit of that to the petals. So it's a nice way to explore different colors and how they interplay and how they go on top of each other, and just seeing the overall effect of all those colors combining on a page. So you could see there that because I didn't wait until it was fully dry, that the petals were bleeding, the edges weren't very crisp. So that's just something as well to consider. But there, so this is a mix of Mars Violet, the Daniel Smith Pearlescent White, and then I'm using a bit of Hematite Violet as well. So I'm trying to sort of recreate a similar colour to this one at the bottom here. You can see this beautiful colours. This is Chocolate by KJDesignsbyKaren. I'm a little bit worried about using it in case I can't get something similar. And she's also, you can see there the silver one, that's Bezzel. So she does a really beautiful creamy colour. But so I'm using here the beam paints. So I love beam paints, and this is I can't remember which colour this is, but I will put it below. But what we're kind of doing on this side of the page, while I'm letting those petals dry, because I want to continue to fill out leaves and petals, but I need that all to dry, so I'm just using this side of the page, and I'm kind of doing a little Liberty print inspired painting. So this is just a nice way to pick a little colour palette and start like using some little floral designs and just enjoying like filling up a page and trying to see how things, you know, work together. So for example, like I put those in, and then I wanted to use some of this color that I just mixed up to accentuate like the middle and the sort of different parts of the flowers, and I really didn't like how this looked, so I actually just went back over it with some of the beam paints and yeah, just covered that up and sort of kept working. So it's a nice way to you know, practice a few different things. So I decided to add some of the pears from the plate and kind of bring that across. And you can also see that I always love to take things off the page. So the little flowers are going off the page, the plate's going off the page. And I think it's important to remember that that is a compositional option that you have as well, to kind of enlarge the painting and kind of make the viewer think that there's more to this story. Yeah, so I think that's about it. I add some peach pop flowers, and then I think I add some more. So when I'm looking at the page, then I'm realizing I need some darker values, some deeper things. So I look at my color palette and kind of figure out, well, what are my options for that? And I end up using Daniel Smith's Sugarlight to add in some deeper value leaves. And you can see here as well that when I'm doing these leaves, I'm also putting them overlapping the petals as well. So, try and create that that more realistic look just by overlapping a leaf and a petal, which might feel a little bit counterintuitive when you are like starting out. So the other thing I wanted to say before the video finishes is that I am planning to change the name of the channel to something more art related. So when I first started this, I really just wanted to put out there a few colours that I thought kind of weren't being represented, and like a bit of a different colour palette. But now I guess it has turned into a kind of an art community and an art channel. So I wanted to just change the name to reflect that. The first name, the name that I have is more, I guess, like a poetic name. It's based on, in Pride and Prejudice, when she is dreaming and then she's standing on the mountain there with her skirt billowing, and just that kind of feeling that we all have of this kind of, we're trying to figure it out, we're trying to get to where we need to be and do what we need to do, and this kind of yearning and hoping and dreaming. So I that was the name, but I want to change it. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, so that hopefully when I change the name, nothing, you can still find the channel and everything like that. I think they do overlap it for a while, but yeah. And then I will kind of put in more news with regards to like the course and everything, probably in the next video. I want to do a my art goals for 2023, so I am glad that you asked about that, and I'll put that video out probably next week if I can. You can see here as well that I am using the Caran d'Ache Technalo pencil. I'm actually just dipping it in water to activate the lead, and I'm kind of just, what I'm looking for is that when they sew, there's like a printed fabric, and then they kind of sew some lines around it, and so I'm kind of trying to draw these broken lines that kind of have this sewn effect. Yeah, so anyway, that is all for today's video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys hopefully next week with a art goals for 2023 video. Bye.